chapter 2. So if you want to jump on over there tonight on your Bibles, your smartphone, or your tablet, this will be Exodus chapter 2. We are going to read the chapter in its entirety. It's 25 verses, so it's not too bad. And then we're going to try to break apart some of it. As you're turning over there, and just let me also say, for some of you who are maybe kind of new to H2O, let me just say this: anytime that you're on your phone or your tablet in here, if God speaks to you, you want to quote something, put it out there on Facebook or Twitter. Just make sure that we hashtag it H2O for life, so that everybody can chase it and do some research on it. H2O, the number 4, H2O for life. When we think about Moses, what comes to mind? Moses is where we're at. X-Men Origins, we looked at Adam. Last week we looked at Noah. Tonight I'm going to jump ahead and we're going to look at Moses. And next week we will wrap it up as we take an in-depth look at Abraham. So tonight, as we look at Moses, what is it that you know about Moses that you remember maybe from Sunday school, from other messages, from what you've heard? What do you know? Prince of Egypt. Okay. All right, I'll take that. Someone else. What do you know about Moses? Moses. Anybody? What do you know? Yes, ma'am. Got to speak a little loud. Okay, you. So I'm going to ask you to say that one more time. Okay, that's not entirely correct. God wrote the tablets. Then He brought the tablets down. Okay. Sorry.
He had trouble speaking.
Very good. Definitely a speech impediment. Definitely. What else we know? What else? What do you think, Justin?
He led the Israelites out of
Okay. One more time. Chris, what do you think? What's so funny, Chris? Sure. What do you think, Chris? Jump in one more time. Tidbit. He was a what? He was a Hebrew. He was. But he was not raised as a Hebrew. He was not raised as a Hebrew. You know, guys, when we think about Moses, let's be honest, we think about this image of Charlton Heston, right, being portrayed in the movie The Ten Commandments. All right. I mean, that's the big thing. We think about him going up to Mount Sinai. We know that he encountered God in the burning bush. Do you remember the distinction that they made of the before Moses, the burning bush, and the after the burning bush? You know, he had aged tremendously because he had literally been before God, and there was just a distinct difference in his countenance. We know that, or we picture him. He's holding the tablets as he brings back down to proclaim to the children of Israel, just like Ali just said. We remember his face-to-face encounters with Pharaoh. You remember that when he's trying to free Israel from bondage? You remember all that? You remember all the plagues? You remember all of the frogs? You remember the water turned to blood? You remember the death of the firstborn? Okay, the list can go on and on and on. And then we look at a lot, and we have here at H2O over the past years, about the parting of the Red Sea and what it was like for him to lead the children of Israel. For those of you who don't know, here's just a little bit of trivia question. Trivia to learn. When Moses led the children of Israel out of bondage, there was approximately 4 million of them. Okay? 4 million. That's a bunch of folks. And these are the ones that had to cross the Red Sea in one night. Okay? It's a whole other story. But just remember that. This is what Moses did. God worked through Moses, parted the Red Sea enough so that the children of Israel could part to get away from Pharaoh's army that was chasing them. So, a little bit of trivia there. But who ruled Moses? Tonight I'm going to tell you he was 2 things. Number 1, first of all, you're right, he was Hebrew. Moses was a murderer. Moses was a murderer. Okay. Second of all, and this is something you may not really know because it's not brought out a lot. As close as theologians can tell, Moses was involved in the first interracial marriage. Don't think about it. And we're going to take a look at that here in just a little bit. Exodus chapter 2. Let's read. And the man of the house of Levi went and took as his wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. Now, why did she hide him? Just let me give you a little bit of history. Pharaoh had, had ordered that all Hebrew boys under a certain age be killed. Okay? So his mother did not want him killed. So, here we go. She's hiding. Verse 3. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes. Basically, it was a little bitty basket, if you will, of sorts, made of bulrush, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. Now, this is a mom trying to protect her son, puts him in this homemade waterproof basket there by the river so that no one can see. She's trying to protect him. As she did this, his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. So here comes Pharaoh's daughter. Time to bathe. Her entourage is down there. She sees the baby in the basket, sends one of her maids to go get it. Okay? This is where we are. The sister's kind of watching, making sure Moses' sister's kind of watching. When she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. Of course, baby's crying. And so she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Now, at that point, she could have had this baby executed, right? Okay, so we really got to grab this. Her dad had already ordered the death of all baby boys under a certain age, and Moses, at this age, fell into that category. She didn't want to do it. Then his sister now runs up to the Pharaoh's daughter, and she says, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" In other words, we know it's a Hebrew child. Do you want me to go get another Hebrew woman that can take care of it for you? Little did she know, and we're fixing to read this, that the person the sister goes and gets is the baby's very own mother. Kind of a real intricate plot that goes on here. The Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And so the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And as the child grew, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called him Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." Okay. His very own mom got to take care of him and got to nurse him. Do you think that was satisfactory for the mother? Honestly. Knowing that the baby was alive. So I'm kind of with Taylor. I agree with that. But how hard do you think it was for the mother, being known as the kid's basic nanny, to go back to Pharaoh's daughter and say, "Here he is matured, here is your baby"? How hard do you think that was? Ladies, how about you? If this was your baby, how would you react? What do you think, Sam?
I think it would kind of suck a little because I would be able to say like, "Yeah, this is my kid," and it'd be like taking care of someone else's kid,
Yeah. So now then you've nursed him to, I mean, he's not an adult, but he's by far, 5, 6, 7 years old now. And now I'm just going to say, now this is your mom, when I'm really the natural. It had to be tough. But at the same time, it kind of goes back to day one. She knew the baby was alive, right? And she knew the baby was going to live. Now, even at that point, in my studies of this, even at that point, if she had have said, "Oh, by the way, that's my child," they'd kill him. He would have been executed. So the only way that she knew her son was going to live was to play along with the charade that's not my child. It worked. The child grew, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, he became her son. So she called him Moses, saying, because I drew him out of the water. That's how he got his name. Okay, verse 11. We're going to fast forward several years. Moses is now an adult. All right? Now it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out to his brethren and he looked at their burdens. He went out and he looked at his brethren. Who's he looking at? He's looking at Hebrews. He's looking at the Israelites. That's who he is. He's looking at his brethren. Okay? Because he is now seen as a what? As an Egyptian. Okay? He's seen as an Egyptian. He went out to his brother and he looked at their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. Now, we don't know that this is an actual brother, a true blood brother, but it is somebody of his kind. This is an Egyptian that he's pretending to be, is now beating up on one of his true kinsmen. Okay? How hard would that have been for you if you'd have been in his place? To have walked away from that, honestly. How hard would it have been? I think it'd been pretty darn tough. Okay? It was tough for him too because he didn't do it. Check this out. Verse 12. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. He took up for his brethren, his own kind. And he didn't want to tell nobody, so he just hid him in the sand. Moses is a miracle. Was it premeditated? Not by any stretch of the imagination. But at the same time, he knew what he was doing. He was killing the guy. No doubt. Verse 13 really throws a monkey wrench in the whole plot. And when he went out the second day, the very next day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting. This is 2 of his brethren now, not an Egyptian and a Hebrew. This is 2 of his very own. And they were fighting, and he said to them, or he said to the one who did the wrong, why are you striking your companion? And then he said, who made you a prince and judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? Now you got to remember, Scripture just said he looked this way and that, and he saw no one, and he killed the guy. Somebody saw it. Somebody saw this murder take place. But it wasn't an Egyptian, it was one of the Hebrews, one of the Hebrew guys saw it. And so now then, how widespread do you think it is among the Hebrew people that Moses is the killer? You think it's pretty widespread? Rumor talks, don't it? I mean, just don't. Okay. How fast does a rumor break out in the dorms? Okay, just quick. Imagine this going through several million people. That Moses, son of Pharaoh, son of Pharaoh's daughter, killed him. And everybody knows it. Moses' reaction was this. Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. And so it was. When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. So now then, everybody and their brother knows that it's gone out from beyond the Hebrews, now it's into the Egyptian camp. And even Pharaoh himself knows that the son of his daughter, the one she found, was killed. And is a killer of his own people. Supposedly. Remember? Pharaoh thinks he's an Egyptian. When Pharaoh heard this matter, he sought to kill Moses. Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and he dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. And they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. Then the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. When they had came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that you have come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds. And he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. So he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. So basically, the father is now going to repay him for taking care of his own sons. Verse 21. Then Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moses. So now we find Moses married. But this is not a courtship. Okay? This is not like an arranged marriage between this parents and their child and this parents and their child. This is not the way this was, like it was typical. This was not even two teenagers that fell in love. This was a man who took care of this other man's sons and their needs, and he goes to live with him. Evidently, he's probably working for him now as a shepherd, and because of that, in his repayment, he gives one of his daughters. Ladies, how would you like to be given? I'm just saying. Anna, what do you think? No. Wonder how she thought. But no, we got to understand the nationality of who this family is. This family is most probably Ethiopian. Okay. Most theologians place this family as an Ethiopian. So you have got Moses now, a Hebrew man, and Zipporah is an Ethiopian female married. Nowhere else prior to this in Scripture do you see the marriage of two different races. This is first. Now, I have to bring this out as a question. Would this marriage have worked if they had just met as normal, do you think? You're saying yes, you're saying no. I love your thoughts. What do you think, Joe?
Back then probably wouldn't have the way would have encouraged it.
Okay. Zephyr, what do you think, Jeff? No answer. Anybody else have any thoughts on this? I mean, it's not about a right or wrong. I'm just looking for a thing. Justin, what do you think?
About this, can you say the question?
I sure can. Do you think that if this had happened on its own without the father intervening and giving his daughter to her, do you think that marriage might have ever occurred?
Well, if that's the first time in Scripture that it's mentioned,
Right.
a marriage like that, probably not.
Probably not.
And Moses might, I guess, the first one to do that.
You have to wonder, and I'm just throwing this out here as a thought. Why do you think God allowed this to happen? Honestly. This is the first. We know this. Why do you think God brought this into play? What do you think, Caleb?
You might be trying to break down the racism.
Okay.
Because back then everyone hated anybody that wasn't
Exactly.
like that.
Hold on, okay. What do you think, Kenyon?
Well, I was looking for my first question. I think that it may have happened, if he was in a foreign land,
Right.
and he was so helpful with the women. Like, I know, like, men did it back then, they would go chase and get one.
Right.
So, I think eventually it kind of still would have happened.
Okay.
And it may not have been before, but it would have been another one from that man.
From that race.
Yeah, he was like helpful to them,
Right.
he wasn't an enemy. So I
Exactly.
guess they accepted him as one of their own.
That's right. Now, the thing to remember is that this marriage lasted. Okay? They never divorced. They were together up until the point of death. So, again, food for thought. Let's keep going. Reread verse 21. Then Moses was content to live with the man, and he gave Zipporah his daughter to Moses. And she bore him a son. He called his name Gershom, for he said, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. Now it happened in the process of the time that the king of Egypt died. Then the children of Israel groaned because of the bondage, and they cried out, and their cry came up to God because of their bondage. King of Egypt, he dies. Evidently, the bondage became harder and the lifestyle became more intense when this king died. Okay. Not quite sure all of that, so don't want to get into it, but it just kind of strings out here. Verse 24. So God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 25. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God acknowledged. Okay. The next chapter, we're not going to read this. The next chapter talks about Moses, his encounter with God in the burning bush. This is what I want you to do, so on and so forth. But what I want to do is I want to just focus on who Moses was. Now let's look at this birth situation. Let's look at what took place. Was this anything short of the hand of God at work to make sure that this man lived? Seriously. I mean, have you ever heard anywhere else of some mama putting their child in a waterproof basket so that somebody else would find him or her so that they would just live and they would die? Let's ask a little more personal question. Would you be willing as a parent to do something like this in order to save a child? Now there's powerful. Kayla says yes. Okay. Sarah, what do you think? Would you be willing to do what Moses' mom did, even today, in order to, or whatever you want to do, in order to save a child, life? Okay. Good. Would you be willing to? Taylor, what do you think? That's right. Okay. Well, let's just take the basket out of play here. Let's just say, would you be willing as a parent to do what it took in order to save your child's life? I got a yes here. Okay. I got a yes out of you. Why you say yes?
See, I just think of it as like, it was almost the same thing as like how it is adoption.
Okay.
Because
I told you.
you have to give up the child and you can't support the child, so it's kind of like that way too. So people who give up their child,
You know, in all honesty, this is quite possibly recorded as the first time that took place. I applaud the mom for doing it. I applaud young ladies today that choose adoption over abortion. I do. I applaud that. We would be a much healthier nation if that was a standard and not an exception. What about him growing up? What do you think about the murder issue? This is a guy who, you're not hurting my brother, I'm going to take you out. Boom. Yes, ma'am.
I think the Bible was pretty good about showing the humanity of people that it talks about, like Noah, it said he was that and he was really like, don't try to do murder. Adam and Seth and Cain. So I think it's like it goes into the humanity of who
Exactly.
we are to live.
Exactly. What we've got to understand is that just because we're a sinner, God will still use you. And this is a murder. Guys, y'all ever killed anybody? See, this is not a hypothetical question. I want you to really think. I've thought about it a couple times. But in all honesty, I've never done anything like that. And so, is that case, do we see ourselves as evil as a murderer? Justin, do you? Are you as evil as a murderer? Hard question. Hard question. Chris? That's exactly right. All sins the same. But we don't, do we? We do not see it. Because I'm way better off than some murderer, rapist. Right? Right? Not according to God. If God will use somebody who has done something like this, think he can use us? The answer is no, we won't. I really do. Let's keep going. What do you think about just honest, what's your first thoughts on the mixed marriage? What do you think about it? Anybody got some thoughts on it? What do you think, Joe?
In all honesty, I grew up in a lot of different households growing up, and a lot of the households that I grew up in, sadly, were pretty racist.
Yeah.
So, I guess as growing up, homes I was always brought up that it was completely wrong. But
Okay, I will stop you there because I want to ask you a question. Were you brought to think that it was completely wrong simply because of the racist viewpoint?
It was just a simple fact that they thought whites were better than blacks, in all honesty. That's the household I grew up in until I went with my dad. But to this day, I never stuck in my head for something. It never felt right. That's just what I was taught. I don't have any problems with it.
The thing we've also got to understand here, they had two boys. It was Gershom and Eliezer, Eliezer, is the second son. These were the first mixed babies. And because of this now, you're finally beginning to see a breakout in some of the different races, right? It's coming to play. We know the language separation took place where? Where do we see the differences in language? Tower of Babel. That's right. So you've got all this leading up to the Tower of Babel. So it's kind of a unique historical point to kind of look back and see where this come from. Numbers 12, verse 3 says this. The man Moses was very meek, more than all humanity that was on the face of the earth. Now that's a pretty tough description. The man Moses was very meek, more than all humanity that was on the face of the earth. What does meek mean? What does meek mean? Aaron?
I think of it as sort of almost like a moment sort of keep to your own thoughts.
Okay. I think we can take it a whole nother level. Okay. Anyone else? What you got back? Yeah, definitely the quiet side, where you're coming from, but it's that humbleness, that almost a gentleness that's there. Doesn't want to look upon himself, doesn't portray himself. Other than the fact that this guy, got in the middle of that fight between the Hebrew and the Egyptian and killed the guy, we really don't see a whole lot of him being boisterous or being look at me type thing. He was just doing everyday work. He was just a shepherd. When he moved to Midian, he was just a shepherd. That's it. Common everyday guy with his sheep. So I think we can now see the quietness, the gentleness, the calmness that went about him. Moses stands as the dominant figure of the entire Old Testament. God chose Moses to lead the Hebrew people out of slavery. Moses handed him the Ten Commandments. He completed this mission by bringing the Israelites out to the Promised Land. And although Moses was inadequate for these monumental tasks, God worked mightily through him, supporting Moses at every step. Okay, what else do we know? He freed the Hebrew children, he helped free the Hebrew children from slavery. From Egypt, which was the most powerful nation in all the world. How do you think it was to him to have to go back now to face the Pharaoh by himself? This being a powerful country. What do you think? Chris, what do you think? What do you think? What's your thought? Justin?
So it was probably pretty nervous. That's kind of a big task.
So this is the guy who was going to kill him. Remember, this is the one who tried to kill him when he found out that he'd killed, another Egyptian. And after he fled. So now he's coming back and he's trying to face this guy. So, would you be scared? I have to really process it. God, are you sure you want me? Am I really the right one? Moses did it. He led this huge mass of the refugees, children of Israel, through the desert. He kept order. He brought them to the border of their future home in Canaan. Moses received the Ten Commandments, delivered them to the people. Moses is also an author. Anybody know how many books of the Bible he wrote? How many you got, Kenny? Kenny has 3. Got 5 over here. Anybody else? What do you think, Brother? We got 3, we got 5. He did write 5. He did write 5. We know them as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. But what are they called? What is the first 5 books of the Bible called? Yes, ma'am. The Torah. Or and there's another word. The Torah is the word used to refer to law. Okay, that's the word of the law. There's another word that we know of for these 5 specific books based on Moses. Anybody? Pentateuch. Yeah, the Pentateuch. Big word. Pentateuch. The Pentateuch. What were some of the strengths? What would you say were some of Moses' strengths? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Faith. Faith. Boom. Well, why so much faith? Why would you say that? What screams to you about all of Moses about his faith? What is it that stands out to you? And see, the reason I ask this is, was it the fact that he went back to Pharaoh? Was it the fact that even in his own land, he killed the Egyptian? Did he have enough faith to know that when he called the plagues to Pharaoh, that they would come true? Okay. How about standing before the Red Sea? It is. It's so tough. And that's why I really wanted to bring this out, is because when we chase our origins of faith, which is really what this series is about, you cannot leave Moses out. Because you go back and as we looked at Adam, we know that faith basically originated here with him. The next one we came out, we looked at last week was Noah, and my goodness, look at the power of Noah. Look what Noah had to have gone through and what he put up with in order to be who he was and how he stood in history. And now that we come to Moses, and this man is just screaming faith all about it. Everything about him, once he got in basically in adulthood, screams his faith into God. But notice how he was raised in Egypt, his faith never wavered from Yahweh. Because he knew his background, he knew his history, he knew his heritage. Moses obeyed God's order despite personal danger and overwhelming odds. Because of that, God worked tremendous miracles through him. Moses had faith in God even when no one else did. Something to remember here, guys. He was on such intimate terms with God that God talked with him on a very regular basis. What were some of his weaknesses? What were some of Moses' weaknesses? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Say it a little louder. He was impatient. I can probably see that. Here. We're going to come to that. Good point. Good point. Thank you. Self-doubt. Okay, why you say that? Self-doubt. Okay. All right. Sarah. Okay, y'all been talking together over here. How many times do we use something that we think is a flaw, like a speech impediment, to hinder us from serving God? A bunch of times. And this is a guy who will go down in history as one of the most powerful men in all of Old Testament who couldn't talk. And we don't know how the impediment was. We don't know how it manipulated his speech. We just know that he couldn't talk. We just wouldn't know how. Now, as Aaron was saying, what took place was the fact that God had told Moses to go to this certain place with the children of Israel and basically command the rocks to give forth water. God said, all you got to do is speak it. Moses didn't bite it. Moses and his staff thumps the rock. And out comes water. There was a punishment because of that lack of faith. What was it? That's right. That's right. Because he did not believe in God enough to just speak and the water come forth. God told him that you will be able to see it, but you will never be able to go. So through all of Moses' life, he took the children out of bondage with Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, and they get over to, basically it's the mountain that overlooks the promised land. And as Moses can look, and he basically drew his last breath because he was never able to go there. And that was his punishment. That was his sacrifice for them. God supplies the power when he asks us to do things that seem impossible. Even in everyday life, now hear this, guy, a heart surrendered to God can be an irresistible tool. Sometimes we need to delegate. When Moses took his father-in-law's advice and delegated some of his responsibility to the others, things personally began to work better for him. You don't need to be a spiritual giant like Moses to have an intimate relationship with God. And we sometimes think that we do. We sometimes think that because we're not a Moses, because we're not a Noah, we can't have that intimate relationship with God. And that is false. That is Satan trying to confuse you. Today, tonight, you can have this intimate relationship with Christ if you want to, because I promise you, he wants to with you. And as hard as we try, we cannot keep the law perfectly. The law shows us how sinful we are, but God's plan of salvation was to send his son Jesus to save us from our sins. The Ten Commandments are a guide for right living, but keeping the law simply cannot save us. In other words, we cannot be saved by works alone. Okay, we cannot be saved by works alone. Now, as I was sharing with a couple of you before we got started tonight, Tuesday night was the debate between Bill Nye and Ken Ham on creation. Those of you who came, thank you for being there. For those of you who couldn't, I totally understand. The weather was just ridiculous. And one of the main differences throughout the whole debate, as they were talking about creationism and the biblical view versus the scientific view, was Bill Nye kept saying, if you can prove it, if I can see it, if I can hold on to it, then I will believe. 2 Corinthians 5:7 screams right back at this analogy. And it simply says this, for we walk by faith and not by sight. Moses walked by faith, not by sight, by any stretch of the imagination. There's no possible way that he would have known the power that God was going to use him for by going to Pharaoh and to free that many people and to have the power and the courage and the leadership to lead them out into the promised land. Walk by faith and not by sight. What are some of the more standout scriptures that we really need to focus on when we think of Moses? Exodus 3:10, if you're highlighting this is powerful. Exodus 3:10 is the scripture, in my opinion, that changed it all. This is what it says. So now, no, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out. I'm sending you. You're the one. I choose you. Exodus 3 verse 14 is the revelation of who God really is. This is at the burning bush. God said to Moses, I am who I am. That is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. This was the question Moses asked God. Well, who do I say sent me? When I go to Pharaoh, who do I say sent me? And God said, I am who I am. Tell him I am sent me. Powerful, powerful. A solitary leader, one with his people but set apart, even in his childhood, raised by the Pharaoh's daughter as if he was an Egyptian prince. That's where we get or the prince of Egypt titles, where the movie came from. Set apart also in that he married an alien wife. She was a Midianite or possibly Ethiopian. Even his physical characteristics, the speech defect, set him apart from others, and is accommodated by God who arranges a leadership duo, eventually with his brother Aaron. Y'all remember that? It was Aaron that went side by side with him into the promised land. And Aaron is the one who, at Moses' death, eventually took the rest of the children of Israel on into the promised land. His role was unique, even to receiving the law, seeing God as evidenced by his changing of the countenance. The man was a known killer. He was the man chosen to meet God on Sinai. He was the man chosen to receive the law on behalf of God's chosen people. The man was chosen to deliver his own people from slavery. Now think about this. And this is what I just kind of will wrap up with. If God can and did use a known killer to lead his chosen people out of bondage, to use that same man to part the Red Sea and to deliver his people out of bondage through the Red Sea and into the promised land, what